Good morning, Don't Unfriend Me Nation. Welcome. Matthew Spear from the Don't Unfriend Me Show. This morning, I thought about doing a couple different things. Maybe I would drink my coffee out of a 24-ounce tumbler that was made of platinum. Maybe I would bring the flowers from the table, bring them into the shot to soften up my rough exterior and my alphaness. Maybe burn a vanilla cupcake Yankee candle. Maybe put some cream in my coffee. I could wear the glasses because I'm getting older. Maybe put on a suit and a tie and try to be Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh or any of the other ones. And although I could make this a 30-second video to try to allure you to my side and to get you to see my point that I'm trying to convey, for 25 years I've been trying to do the 30-second solution with my wife and haven't satisfied her, so I'm not going to try it with you.
Do you want the truth? Are you tired of being so confused? You feel like you're more f***ed up than the lies on the evening news? Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all.
No, I'm not going to do any of those things because I've tried to reinvent my show many times. I've tried to make it shorter, make it longer, talk less, talk more. Change the angle of the camera, do it in black and white, do it in color. But the one thing that's always remained, no matter what version of the show I provide, is it's always been honest. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with that. And I think the conversation that I want to have with you this morning, this fine, lovely morning, is your vote doesn't matter. There it is. There's the truth. Your vote absolutely doesn't matter. But then again, it does matter. How's that possible? Well, Michael Jordan said it best. You missed 100% of the shots you don't take. And that is the absolute truth. Your vote doesn't matter to you. And you get to decide that. That's your call. It's your choice. Because taxes can go up. We can get into a world war. We can have famine. We can have our Constitution stripped from us. But in the end, it doesn't really matter to you. Because consequence is not tied to your vote. You just think, it doesn't matter who's in office. Whoever's in office, it's going to happen anyway. They're going to steal the election. Doesn't matter. So in that instance, you're right. Unless you make it matter, unless you can tie the lines of delineation between your vote and the outcome of whoever's in office and what will happen, it doesn't matter. You can tell yourself, I don't live in a swing state. It doesn't matter. I don't care about my state legislature. I don't care about the gubernatorial. I don't care about my mayor. I don't care about the county clerk. I don't care about the sheriff. My vote doesn't matter. That's all fair. You know, my uncle told me, homicide detective, that I wish that I could just circumvent the law sometimes. Because if I have 5 suspects, I would just put them all in prison and put a camera on them. And I would put food there, and I'd put some movies in there, and I'd put some beds in there, and I would just wait. And when I got back from my time with my family, I would notice something in the morning when I walked in with my cup of coffee. Is that I would see 4 people nervously pacing, food untouched, movies and bed unencroached upon. And then I would see one guy who is asleep. His food would be gone, and the movies that I put there for him would be in a disheveled mess because that person knows they're caught. And that person's conscience is at peace with what they did. The other 4 are wondering, why the hell am I here? What happened? I want to go home. I miss my family. And I would be able to solve pretty much every homicide in that way. But I can't. I can't do it that way. Because I swore to uphold an oath. I swore to follow the law. I swore to follow the things that I was given to complete my job. And in order for me to do right, I can't do wrong, no matter how much I want to. My uncle was a great man and someone who I revered and loved. I remember my grandfather, who was the father of my uncle, mother's side, that he had 100 guns and he only had 1 Bible. And I asked him, why do you have so many guns? Why do you only have 1 Bible? And he said to me, is that in certain times, as he holds up the Bible, this is the only weapon I need. And in other times, I don't know what weapon I will need and if my neighbor will need one as well. And that blew me away. I mean, how profound, right? That this Bible can be the answer to all your problems, but sometimes you need to grab your rifle. And the thought of, I've got mine, but my neighbor might need one, is a really interesting concept because it says that my grandfather assumes that all of them may not have a weapon, but all of them would have a Bible. Amazing that in that time, just, 40 years ago, the thought that there was still some people who would have a firearm and others who wouldn't, and that was okay, but everybody had a Bible. It baffles me. And times have changed, and God is not necessarily relevant to all families. And either is owning a firearm. But then I also remember my grandfather as we were driving in his pickup truck. And I saw a bunch of people in line and balloons, red, white, and blue. And we were driving past the DMV. And there was a large polling station. It was election day. And it was California, so it was warm in November. And I said, what's going on over there? And he said, well, they're voting. And my grandfather was not particularly sensitive to the tender young ears of children. And he was a very grumpy man. Imagine John Wayne, even grumpier. And he said to me, those stupid sons of bitches think their vote makes a difference. And I didn't understand. And I said, well, then why do they do it? And he says, well, because they're dumb. And I looked at him and I said, Grandpa, at one point you told me that you had 1 Bible because you assumed everyone else would also have a Bible. But you had many guns because you never knew what you would need, but more importantly, what your neighbor would need. And he goes, that's right. And I said, do you think that those people in line have a similar outlook, that they assume that you're going to vote, and that ultimately that them standing in line might inspire you to vote? Or maybe it's something that you'll need. And he didn't say anything for a long time. And I think for the first time, I heard the words escape his lips. You're right. And he turned around and he got out of his truck and I waited in his truck. And I assumed that he must have voted, because he was in there for a while, and he waited in line, and he came out, and there were no stickers at that time. There were no pamphlets. And he sat down, and he turned on the truck, rolled it over, and drove off. And we didn't say anything to each other. But I know one thing. Every election after that, he went and voted. Because I'd go with him. And it didn't matter whether it was a primary. It didn't matter whether it was a general. It didn't matter if it was a runoff or whatever. He voted. And he would pick me up. We would go into that dilapidated, beat-up Ford and drive to the local polling station, and I would wait in the truck, and he would vote. And when I was 18 years old, my choice was between Ross Perot, Bill Clinton, and Bush. And it was my first time to really vote and to get out there and to do what my grandfather did, my father did, my uncle did, my mom did. I saw it all the time, and I was so excited. And I was convinced that Ross Perot was my best choice. Not Bill Clinton and not Bush. And I was stubborn because my father was like, don't waste your vote. What are you doing? You can't vote for Ross Perot. It's a waste of a vote. And I said to him, he's the only one up there that I actually believe. He's small. He's insignificant. He's got giant ears. He's got an old-time look about him. Somebody you would see as a bookkeeper in It's a Wonderful Life or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And he's not very appealing. He's diminutive. But at least he's honest. And he's just telling us what he's going to do. And I'm going to give him my vote. And as I got ready to do that, we were in Colorado at the time. About 13 and a half, 14 hours from California where we lived prior. I hear coming up our dirt driveway in the mountains in Pine, Colorado, this beat up, clunky old truck. And I look out, and it's my grandfather. And he was much more silver than I remember, and older. And he had the same plaid, white and light blue, short sleeve cowboy shirt with the ivory buttons that we all know, the snap-ons from JCPenney. And he had his pipe in his pocket where there were burn holes. He put on his cowboy hat and he walked up and he looked at me and he goes, "Are you ready?" And I said, "What, Grandpa, what the hell are you doing here?" And I tried to give him a hug, and he's just quick pat on the back. It wasn't a hugging type. He goes, "We're going to vote." This man wasn't the greatest grandfather. He wasn't loving. He was a racist. He was a grumpy guy and really didn't have much of a work ethic. But I had made an impact on his life, and I would like to think that when it came to my time to vote, that he wanted to be there and ensure that he handed me the same level of support that I handed him. At least that's my dream. Or at least the way I recollect it. I only have one Bible. I have many guns. And I only have one vote. But people are depending on me, and I depend on them with all three. The reason I tell you this story, and I didn't put on a suit, and I didn't bring in the flowers and try to soften my appearance is because, like I said, convincing you is truly impossible. You have to have the desire for change. You have to believe that what I'm saying ultimately will have an impact on your decision. Because the truth is this: 62% of gun owners don't vote. 56% of Christians don't vote. They're registered. They just don't show up. And if gun owners and Christians actually showed up, Donald Trump would receive 100 million votes, and this election is over. I'll be shocked if there's 130 to 140 million votes in this election. I don't expect there to be the north of 170, 175 that people think there will be, like 2020. If 100 million people show up for Donald Trump, this election will be the largest blowout in history, the popular vote and the electoral vote. But like my grandfather, there's people out there who believe that their vote doesn't count, that it doesn't matter. And you're right. If you think that, it doesn't. I would like to think that if someone came to my house and asked me for a Bible, and I feel horrible, and I need to remedy this, like today, that I would have to look really hard for it. And if someone came to my door and said, I have someone break into my house, I need help, the first thing I would do is grab a firearm and run over there and help them. But if someone knocked on my door and said, I need your vote, I'd probably slam the door in their face. They said, I want to talk to you about Kamala Harris, I'd probably slam the door in their face. And if they came to my house and said, I want to talk about Trump, I'd say, hey, it's great to have you here, but go to another house. You already see the flags outside. I can't go door to door. I can go in my neighborhood. But ultimately, this is the platform and the voice that I have. And if you are a person who follows this stuff religiously and follows what's going on in our country, you'll understand when I ask you, do you believe that your vote counts? Because in this election, I'm depending on you. I need you. I don't need your gun. I don't need your Bible, but I need your vote. I need you to get up. And if you can't get up, I need you to crawl. And if you can't crawl, I need you to ring the bell and reach out to your neighbor, to your friend, to your family, and say, help me vote. I haven't voted in years. I don't even know if I'm registered, but I need help. Because without the Christians and without the gun owners showing up in this election, like we did for Reagan, we're going to lose. And this may be your last chance to defend this country with the God-given rights that you possess, with the natural rights that you possess. And you may have that Bible and you may have that gun and you may think that I'm at peace and I'm okay and I'm ready to leave the mortal coil and this is my last vote. But the rest of us aren't. We haven't given up. We swore a solemn oath to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. We stood up and took a pledge to that flag. Some of us believe in it. Some of us haven't given up hope. And I would encourage you to make that drive. If my grandfather, at his age, can drive across the country to ensure that his grandson has him there to vote, you can drive a mile or two to a polling station and vote. You can fill out that ballot and mail it in and have your friends or family check to make sure that you and your vote were counted. It's that important. I just thought I would share that with you. You may not agree with Donald Trump. That's okay. You don't have to. You may not like him. That's also okay. But there are ballots that need to be cast. If not for a federal election, for the state and local election. Your neighbors are counting on you. You can't stay home this time. Whatever disenfranchisement or anger you have towards our government, don't take it out on the people of America who need you to get out and vote. It does matter if you make it matter. And then again, if you refuse to do that, then you're right. It doesn't. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. We'll be back on 7 o'clock tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed the message. Maybe next time I'll bring more flowers and maybe put on some makeup. Maybe that'll convince you. But I have it deep in my soul that America is great and the people in it want it to be great. It's up to you. This is all we have. I really don't want to have to grab the gun in the Bible. I'd rather just vote this problem out of existence. Maybe we can give it a try one more time and see what happens. I believe in us. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.